I'm just starting the recording. So just to say, everyone, this is Teresa Rich from Reflexology UK, and I've got the lovely David here who talks about Finger Free Reflexology. So this is a completely free webinar that he's going to be delivering, and he'll tell you where he does training and everything, but it is completely free, and it will just give you an insight into everything that he actually does with this. So I first of all got to say thank you very much, David, for coming on the line to offer to do this.
You're welcome. I'm just so grateful that you've invited me
this morning, and it was good fun. So before we start, I'd love to also notice the audience that have taken the time out also to come on the line. So do you mind if I just find out which parts of the world people are in from, whether they're from the UK or whether they're from Australia or anything like that? So if you could put that in the questions box, that would be fabulous. Or which part of the UK you're from. I mean, there's people I recognise here, but let's just have a look to give you an idea. So we've got Dawn Smith from Leicester. We've got Brenda Bradford from Oxfordshire. Olia, I think, from Tunbridge Wells. Brighton, we've got Andrea, and we've got Sally from Wales. The rest of the people are rather shy with technology. We've got a few more that are pressing buttons. We've got Janet from Wirral, Sandra from Milton Keynes, Tunbridge Wells, Sarah Howard, Hampshire, we've got Heather Craig. Oh, it's Olivia. The spelling was incorrect. Thing, that's why. So it's nice name anyway. So that's a good start. That's really, really good. And I've got Jean Shrub, and she's put Jean from Epsom. So superb. So I'm going to leave it there so I can let you come in on and tell us everything. First of all, maybe David, about how you developed Finger Free Reflexology and what drove you to it.
That's an easy one.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yes. What it was that I used to teach CPD courses before I'd actually even got my own school. And people would come up to me and they'd say, "Oh, David, I'm getting aching fingers, aching thumbs," that sort of thing. And I would give the normal response, which I'd heard from the likes of Tony Porter and Lynn Booth, and it's probably your technique. So I would ask them to show me their technique. And every time it was different, because of course they'd all been trained by different tutors, different schools. And I said, "Well, try this." And most times the people would respond and say, "Oh yeah, that feels an awful lot better." And I'd be thinking, great, problem fixed. But then my nemesis came along in that one of my graduates came to a CPD course I was running and said, "David, my fingers are aching." And I thought, this isn't good. And so I asked her to show me the technique. She was doing it exactly as I taught her. And I'm thinking, this is bad news. Something is wrong. So at the same time, there was a brilliant holistic health show that used to be held at East Midlands Airport. And it's before you have the health and beauty show that now is at the NEC. In fact, I don't know if anybody's been to that recently, but we get the size of a postage stamp now. It's a tiny, tiny little corner of the NEC, and the rest of it's all beauty and barbers and hair, and that's where it seems to be the money is. Looking good on the outside rather than actually looking after yourself on the inside.
Hang on, maybe we'll remain poor then, but happy.
Exactly. Oh yeah, you never become a reflexologist to get rich. I haven't met a rich one yet. Anyway, and I'm sure there are probably an awful lot of nodding heads out there listening to this seminar going, "Yep, that's it."
Personal satisfaction, completely different.
Exactly, we love what we do. But at this health show, I met a guy called Jerry Pives. And for those of people that are into massage, will know him for No Hands Massage. And he was actually launching No Hands Massage for the very, very first time. And he did this show, showing how it was done, but it was big sweep. I'm going to sort of just move back a little bit so you can sort of see what I'm going to try to do, because it's big sweeping movements with the forearm and stuff like that. And he was using the his small of his back on the small of his client's back. It was, the whole body was being used. And I thought, this is a really interesting way of doing massage. And it kind of sowed a little seed in my mind thinking, I wonder if there's a different way to deliver reflexology. Sadly, nothing that Jerry was doing could be translated into fine precision work onto the soles of the feet. But it kind of got me thinking. And then I went home and was sort of mulling the idea over. And I don't know why I was just looking at my fist. And I thought, do you know something? I've got a pretty awesome weapon just there. And I'd also been thinking about the likes of Father Joseph Euxter with Rocheur and stuff like that. And I thought, I've got my own little short stick here, which is, come on, the wrong way, short stick just here, which is my third metacarpal. I thought, I wonder if I could use that. So I grabbed hold of my wife, who actually isn't really into reflexology very much. It works brilliant for her, but she's got extremely low pain threshold. And I was peeling her off the ceiling, but I wasn't actually doing any effort at all. And I suddenly realized the whole principle of what I was doing was tiny amount of pressure per square inch, and it's hard as well, rather than the soft fleshy area of the thumb. It's just like the equivalent of a lady wearing stiletto heels walking along a wooden floor, and that was this versus an elephant walking along a wooden floor that doesn't do as much damage, so to speak. So I was able to put more pressure applied to the reflex, but use actually far less force and pressure in the technique.
Brilliant.
And that is the secret of Finger Free Reflexology. It's actually do less, work smart rather than working hard, and you actually get more result. It's a completely different technique as well. It's if you imagine if you imagine I'm holding a client's foot with my holding hand, you slide the fist over the holding hand, and it's a twist, twist, twist action. But we've got some pictures of it later to show how it actually really, really works. Yeah.
Brilliant. Absolutely. What an introduction. It's so good to know, and I'm sure everyone else is going to agree with me, where it was born and how you started off with it, because I always love to know, like everybody, not just the techniques, but how they were created and what led
that was,
to.
Yeah, that was back in 2003.
Okay.
And it then took me another 5 years to actually put the whole thing together. There's a great expression: if you have a good idea, it's very often 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration.
Oh wow!
And it couldn't have been truer, because it took years to actually work out how to do the rest of the foot.
Brilliant. So I'll let you carry on with this then now. So
okay.
All yours. Stage is all yours, David.
Right, you are. So I'll click just here. So Finger Free Reflexology. So I suppose the question that most people do ask me is, can reflexology really be done without fingers and thumbs? And the other question that I also get is, will it actually feel the same for the client? Because we all like to make sure that our clients are feeling what's going on, and we're wanting to also feel for ourselves what's happening. And the answer is definitely yes, because we can feel congestion. Even though we're using a completely different part of the hand, we can feel sort of popping going on. It's one of my favourite bits of doing reflexology, is when you sort of come across a really crunchy, poppy area, and it's just like you're being paid to pop bubble film. I love it. It's true though, isn't it? Exchanges of energy. This is where you sort of feel, tingling, and the client sometimes feels waves of energy sort of going up through their legs or in their body. And again, yes, you do feel that as well. The other thing as well, of course, the most important one is, do you feel imbalances on the feet where there's something disturbed? And absolutely. The analogy though that I want to give you is that you do feel it differently, because as you just saw with the little bit when we were doing the introduction, is I'm using a bone instead of my thumb or finger, and it does feel different. It only takes literally a day or two to get used to the change of feel. But the best example I can give is, Teresa, if you were sitting next to me and I crunched into the most gorgeous crisp apple, you'd be able to hear that crunch with your ears. And you know how that sounds. But if you yourself, Teresa, were crunching into that apple, you'd hear it differently. You'd be hearing it through the bones of the mandible, the maxilla, the bones of the face.
Mm-hmm.
And it does sound different. And it's the same with Finger Free. You're feeling things with the bones of your hand rather than with your fingers and thumbs. And the fingers and thumbs, of course, they are akin to your ears. The bones of your fingers and thumb akin to when you're eating an apple yourself. So the good news is, yes, we can give a full and effective treatment, and you don't have to use your fingers and thumbs at all, which is wonderful if you've got a busy practice and you're wanting to keep fresh. I always remember there was a lady that emailed me, and she says, I do corporate work. She says, and I know my last treatment isn't as good as my first treatment. And that was quite something to say, to actually, fess up to that, saying that she knew that she wasn't as good because she was getting tired. And she said after she'd learnt the Finger Free technique, she says, I'm just as fresh at the end, and she says, and I can do just as an effective treatment at the end. So that was exactly what I'm looking for when I'm teaching people, that they, are able to enjoy a full productive day and be just as confident that their clients are getting value for money as well. So who's Finger Free for? Well, it's for people with arthritis, aching joints. If you feel that you're kind of getting slight inflammation as well when you've done a few treatments, that's one sort of class of reflexologists that would be good for Finger Free. Another one, and I do get this a lot with students that are learning reflexology, as they come along and they then tell me that they've got double jointed, so hypermobility. I do apologise if anybody's squeamish with some of these pictures that I'm just putting up here. But they're cracking examples, aren't they, of somebody that's got double jointedness. Wow. But I found that, especially with when you're trying to sort of put on a decent amount of pressure with the techniques that you would use in classical reflexology, the fingers and thumbs just collapsed under these students. And so what I do now is I'll show them the classical technique and principle, but I actually get them to do the Finger Free instead, because there is no joint that takes any strain in Finger Free at all. So there's nothing that collapse, and they can give a full and effective treatment again. There was another type is carpal tunnel syndrome. There seem to be an awful lot of people that seem to be suffering from this at the moment. I'm not just thinking reflexologists, but I do remember a lady that came for Finger Free training, and she had to wear wrist supports. And she'd come all the way up to Nottingham from London, because at the time I hadn't found a venue to teach down in London. And it got to lunchtime, and she suddenly says, oh, she says, I forgot to put my wrist supports on. And then she says, oh, she says, and my hands don't ache. And she was literally running around the room with her hands in the air going, woohoo!
Brilliant, brilliant.
And that's just so rewarding.
It is.
As a tutor, when somebody responds immediately and so positively, and she says, oh, she says, and she was in a FHT local group down in Basildon. She says, could I show everybody these techniques, Dad? And I'm going, yeah, of course you can. I says, the more people that get to hear about it, the better. So that was absolutely lovely.
Fantastic. And just out of curiosity, do you encourage people to do like exercises? Only because I was telling you earlier on about my husband. We went cycling, and we were. It's not like you said. It's not just reflexologists that get it. And he was cycling, and from just 6 days of continual cycling, he's got repetitive strain injury in his wrists, and he's not a reflexologist. So
you can get it anywhere, repetitive strain injury. It is such a problem. But yes, I do encourage people to exercise. And in fact, at the very beginning of, actually it'd be interesting to sort of find out on the questions thing, if anybody has actually done the Finger Free course already. That would be really interesting to know.
Would you like to put a message, if you have, in the questions box, if you're able to? That would be superb.
Because
Um,
I'd love to give a shout out to anybody that has, I must admit,
yeah.
because us reflexologists, we're lovely
Ah,
people,
here we go.
and I've always found them to be so friendly. But yes, at the beginning of the course, I always talk about the fact that doing a warm-up exercise before you get working,
Yes.
it's so important. And the story I'll sort of give an example is you've got Usain Bolt, fastest man in the world. At least I think he's still the fastest man in the world. But you know who I mean. Olympic champion. And he doesn't just, and he's such a laid-back guy as well. He doesn't just saunter up to the starting block and put his feet in. The gun goes and off he runs his race. He'll be warming up for hours. Now, such a laid-back guy that sort of takes things in such a chilled way, knows the importance of warm-up, then so should we.
Brilliant.
And there is actually a warm-up video that I've got on the Jubilee College YouTube channel. And it's one of the ladies that works with me, Melanie. She does this warm-up video, and it's great. It really, really is. So, I mean, if anybody wants to watch it, again, that's free of charge.
Fantastic.
And you just put Jubilee College, all one word, on YouTube, and you come up with our YouTube
Brilliant.
channel. So, absolutely, it's really, really important warming up.
That's great, because everybody on this call, by the sound of it, has never ever done Finger Free Reflexology. How's that?
Well, there we go. What's their excuse? That's what I want to know.
They're shy, but nobody has come to say that they've done it.
Ah, no worries. Well, there we go. Loads of people to find out about.
Yes.
Well, I hope they enjoyed this webinar. Of course, finger free, particularly for busy reflexologists with tired hands. You don't actually have to already have a repetitive strain injury to do this course. And in fact, I would highly advise people, if they haven't got one yet, do it now rather than wait until you got a repetitive strain injury and then doing it, because of course if you've got an injury you've then got to recover from it, and prevention's much better than cure. And of course, here we go, repetitive strain injury. This is exactly who Finger Free is from. And what we've kind of got to look for is that we are actually all susceptible. The old adage of, oh, it's just your bad technique or whatever, it's not true at all. We are all susceptible, and it's the cause of loads and loads of inflammatory conditions. And if you are doing a fair few clients a day and you're sort of, to apologise for the sound, the sound impersonation of me doing reflexology, but if you're sort of bending your thumb and going nick, 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 like this with your finger walking all the time, you are probably going to get a repetitive strain injury unless you have a genetic predisposition not to get one. And I wonder whether some of the greats that went before us that were sort of used to use it's your poor technique analogy, as to why you'd got repetitive strain injury, if they just happened to be lucky and they were genetically predisposed to not get it, and so therefore that's why they thought that people were using the bad techniques. So we as reflexologists were particularly susceptible to this in our fingers, our thumbs and our wrists, because we're flexing them all the way through a treatment. We'll be flexing them, and if you're flexing them in the same way time after time after time, you will get strain and things will start to wear out. And I must admit that years ago, Andrew James and I, we wrote a report for Reflections magazine about the discovery that some reflexologists were even developing osteoarthritis in fingers and thumbs. Now that shouldn't happen.
No.
Shouldn't happen at all, because osteoarthritis is something you get in load-bearing joints. It's wear and tear. So, it really, really shouldn't be going on at all. So it's the I can't even get my worms out now. Repetition of the movement. Poor posture does have something to do with it. I mean, I sometimes deliver courses where I'm visiting another school or somewhere different in the country, and I see people that are working the arm or the leg reflex, and they're leant right over to get round to it, and I call it the Leaning Tower of Pisa position. And it's a case of, for goodness sake, you've got a wheelie stool, just move the stool round so you can sit up straight. You're going to be so much more comfortable. And then they're going, oh, but my back aches. And we're going, I'm not surprised.
Oh.
Another thing as well is that some people, clients, I'm thinking here, will be saying, "Oh, could you just push in a bit harder here?" And if you've not been taught to treat effectively when you are putting firm pressure on, you could very, very easily strain a bent joint. And by doing the thumb walking, very often we'll be bending that thumb joint. And if you're not protecting yourself properly, you can easily, come away from that treatment thinking, "Oh, great," and you need to give your hands a shake out. And, so we've got to be careful that you don't actually damage yourself, and then you're no good to anybody. And that's, then your career's suffering. And then finally, not enough rest. We're all thinking, "Oh, we're going to get clients in, we've got to do this, got to do that." Make sure that you have a break between your clients. Make sure that you integrate, maybe into when you're washing hands, a little bit of stretching, a little bit of manipulation, and do wash your hands in cold water. I think actually that's on the next slide. I'm peeking too soon. So what are the warning signs? Pain, that's a bit of an obvious one. Tightness, a dull ache in your hands. You can have throbbing, numbness, or tingling sort of feeling. And if you've got any of those, in fact, I've sort of shot by too fast here. Let's just, can I go back? There we go. If you've got any of these aren't warning signs that you are going to get a repetitive strain injury. These are actually warning signs to say, "Sorry guys, you've actually already got a repetitive strain injury." So it's, it sneaks up on you. It really, really does. So how do we prevent it? So you've actually got to stop doing what you're doing. But that doesn't mean, the good news is that it doesn't mean that you've got to stop doing reflexology, just do it a different way. So adjust your working position. You can use anti-inflammatories because it is an inflammation. And I'm not talking here about, say, glucosamine, ibuprofen. I am talking about glucosamine, which is a natural anti-inflammatory. It's really good for your joints, and it's not got any nasty side effects to it. The only people I think that can't take it are people that are diabetic. And here we go. See, I did tell you, stretching and warming up exercises. There you go, especially for you, Teresa.
Yeah, I love it. It's so important.
That's it. And there we go. I did tell you I peaked too soon on the last slide. Yeah, wash your hands in cold water. If you use hot water, you're actually going to aggravate the inflammation. So cold water is the way to go. And these new antibacterial hand washes, they don't need the heat to activate the bacterial killing agents in them. And another one, of course, is do a little bit of self-massage on your hands.
Yes.
This is where I would be reiterating the warm-up exercises. Do those between your clients. You're bound to have a favourite stretch or two. Use them. Don't forget to do them, because your hands are your tools. Yeah. They are your most, what could I call them, effective investment that you've ever made in yourself. Yes. For goodness sakes, look after them, because they are your tools.
That's a really good one. Before you carry on, do you mind me just interrupting?
Okay. Please do.
Gilmore, she's saying, could you say what the Jubilee College YouTube stretching video is called? Maybe what you could do, as well as saying it, if you want to put it in the chat thing, just type it in there. Would that be okay? Right. So that'll then go to everyone as a message.
Right. I will actually, let's just hunt for it.
Put the link in, and then everyone can go to it.
Go.
Make it easy.
Right. Let's just find this YouTube.
So just bear with us. Has anyone else got any questions while he's looking for that? That would be super. I mean, personally, some of the exercises I do, I don't know what you can see, is I stretch all my fingers. I do, this, there are certain things. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what yours are, David.
Problem.
That'd be fab.
No problem. Let's just, got to click on videos. It's coming.
It's coming, yeah, it's good. It's really good.
And where's it gone? Hand reflexology, finger free preview, massage. Oh, I'm going to have to find this. I'm going to have to get back to it because it isn't where I thought it would be.
All right then, no worries. Send it.
I will. I'll find it later.
Yeah, yeah. But they can go onto your YouTube channel anyway and have a note.
Yes.
That's cool. Brilliant. Thanks for
there we go.
that.
Okay. So a height adjustable seat with wheels is, I think, essential. Maintain good posture. What I mean by that, though, is move around. Don't just sit at the foot of your client and don't move. It is a case of move around a lot. Make sure you do budget into your busy day a 10-minute break between each of your clients. That'll allow you to wash your hands. It'll do stretching exercises, shake them out before your client's then ringing on the doorbell for your next appointment. And the problem is, of course, it's so easy that we run late with one client. The next client arrives early and you're thinking, quick, get in there. But, look after yourself. Oh, here we go, move around. I must admit, I move around on mine so much, I've just broken one of the wheels on my wheelie stool. It suddenly went crack, and the whole stool just tipped over sideways, and it nearly threw me off. I'm thinking, oh, great. So, well, there we go. But it's a case of it is good advice to do that. And then, most important, alternate treatment styles. Now, what I mean by that is, it's not just finger free. This is any advice for avoiding finger free, avoiding repetitive strain injury. Don't avoid finger free, whatever you do. You can see this isn't scripted, can't you? There's things like advanced reflexology techniques that Hagar Basis is now doing. You've got things like vertical reflexology that Lynn Booth is doing. You've got gentle touch reflexology that my great friend Sue Ricks does. You've got precision reflexology that Jan Williamson does. All sorts of different styles, and it's only when you just use one style, one way, and you're doing it all the time that you're going to get your repetitive strain injury. And of course, you wouldn't expect me to not mention Finger Free Reflexology is another style of working that is then going to completely avoid using fingers and thumbs, because the one thing I would say with all these other alternate styles, they do use fingers and thumbs, of course. Finger Free is completely radical. And so let's just have a look. How do we do Finger Free Reflexology? This is a picture of the first technique that I did on Marie, my wife. This is when I've got the third metacarpal twisting into the sole of the foot, and you can see how my fist, my working fist, is wrapped around my thumb. My thumb is then used as a hinge. So we're doing a rocking movement, and you can probably, I might even be able to explain how to do this via the webinar. If everybody makes a fist and holds their arm out so that they can see the underside of their forearm. So it's almost like you've got the palm of your hand facing back to you. Make that fist and then just rotate your forearm.
Do you want to move your hand, David? Could you move your hand more in front of the webcam? So we can...
Oh, I haven't even got the webcam on. Can you see me then still?
Yeah, we can see you, but can you move your hand up more to your face?
I didn't even know you could see me. Oh, the wonders of technology. Well, hang on, how do I...
No, just put it in front more, your hand, in front of your face.
Right, is that it? Is that because I can't see myself now? So it's doing it like that. Okay, and you're not moving your wrist. And if you then bring in your holding hand, I'm just going to turn it at an angle. Can you see everything still?
It's good.
Okay, so now if you imagine I've got my client's foot between my holding hand and my fist, that little bone just here suddenly becomes a brilliant instrument, and it's just like doing reflexology but with short sticks. But the nice thing is that a lot of the membership associations say that reflexology should not include the use of implements, and of course we're not. We're using our body to do reflexology. So that's how you would start, by working the sole of the foot, and we tend to work up the zones. I like using energy work with reflexology, and so we would work all 5 zones 2 or 3 times, going from the medial side, so in line with the big toe, across to the lateral side, so in line with the little toe. And then to make sure that we've got the whole foot or the whole sole of the foot worked, going back, we would work between the zones. So it would be zone 4.5, zone 3.5, zone 2.5, zone 1.5, so that every reflex has then had a good, I'm wanting to use the word pummeling, because it is fairly firm. Finger free is. It's specific, but it doesn't have to be firm. A lot of people are worried that, you know, if you learn a particular style of reflexology, it must be delivered to the firmness that somebody says that it can be done at. Well, that's the maximum. You don't have to do. I mean, it's ART, I think, has got the best reputation for firm reflexology, or I say the best reputation, the most well-known reputation for it. But you can use their techniques, and it doesn't have to be done firmly. I know Tony believes that it should be firm, but you know, just because you've learnt it one way, you can adapt. Then we have got the technique that we're showing now. This is me using my ulna, so this is the bone that runs along the little finger, and I'm working the fallopian tubes for this. So I would seesaw over this reflex, and that is how I would deliver reflexology for that. Now, I'm also a great believer that we follow the body's natural flow. So you only seesaw across one way, and that is from the ovary to the uterus. We would never seesaw back, because that then would be ramming that poor egg back up from whence it came. And we don't want to do that. We're wanting to help the flow of the body naturally. So this is a nice, easy technique for using with the fallopian tubes. Then, now I like this one. This is one of my favorites. This is called the tulip. And you might be able to sort of see why I call it the tulip, because you've got the client's big toe, which is almost like the stamens of the tulip flower, and the reflexologist's hands are like the petals of the tulip flower. Can you sort of see the analogy? Does that sound okay? What we do with this is for working the neck reflex. And we don't go push, 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 push around the neck. We actually will manipulate the joint, just like an osteopath will manipulate the spinal reflex, the spine itself. And when we're manipulating it, it's done in a sort of a circular motion with the heel of the hand. And that client's toe is waggling around like anything, and so it almost feels like you're actually having your neck moved around, and you can feel the crunchiness. And quite often the client will go, I can feel that, and they actually are feeling it physically in their neck as we're doing it. While we're doing that, we also do something else with the joints of the big toe as well, which is actually to pull up. And we're incorporating an Ayurvedic principle with this, in that with traditional Indian medicine, which is Ayurveda, they believe that negative energy is stored between the joints of the skeletal system. And by releasing that energy, by stretching the joint a little bit, it will allow that energy to be released, and you can get rid of it. And so for when someone's got a stiff neck, well, of course, that's negative energy. It's being squashed. It's being compacted. You can't do anything with it. And so what we're doing is we're going, that's okay. We'll release that energy. We'll release that stiffness by pulling the reflex. And it has amazing results, absolutely amazing results. And we do the same thing with the sinuses as well. Same sort of technique by pulling the sinuses, because, of course, when you're all congested, that really does feel like it's a really negative feeling. So by pulling on the toes, opening up the joints, and it's such a strange feeling, and everybody that I've done it on goes, that feels, just so cool and so strange as well, because it's not what they're expecting.
So
and it really, really works.
Question,
yeah,
David, if it's possible.
Of course.
I see
Sorry,
what you're saying with stretching. So
yeah.
Is it the same as like in Thai foot, where they're fit, in Thai massage and everything, they click, so they're really quite vigorous with their stretching. So is that a bit more of a gentle oozing of stretch, like a yoga stretching of the toes?
This is a yoga stretch. Don't worry. Anybody listening here thinking that I'm sort of, going to be cracking bones and No. Definitely not.
Okay. That's
no.
good.
I have for my students, regardless as to whether it's a CPD or whether it's on the level 5 mastership that I teach, I have a mantra, and it's positive pressure, not pull away pain.
Yes.
There is a thing in the brain called the pain gate, and we can take a certain amount of pain, but after that, the gate kind of slams shut, and it won't allow more pain than the brain or the body can cope with to be registered by the brain. This is why, of course, some athletes, they can have done themselves a bit of a nasty injury while they're playing their sport, and they don't realize that they've done that until after they've sat down and they suddenly become aware. It's the same with us, we can sort of cut ourselves while we're out on a walk or something. We think, oh, how did that happen? And it's just because the pain gate has been activated, we're not aware of it. And as soon as that pain gate activates, it actually, to my mind, negates the effectiveness of reflexology, because the gate has been slammed shut in the face of the treatment. So we don't want that to happen. So it's positive pressure, so the client is feeling what's going on. There's a reaction that the client can respond to and let you, the therapist, know that they're feeling something, but we don't want to go too far. Is that okay?
Oh, absolutely. I get what you're saying completely. Completely
Good.
get it.
So that's for working the neck. We would also work the sinuses that way as well. And then this is the spine. Now, this picture doesn't actually show it quite right, because my hand, the palm of my hand, would actually be over the spine reflex, but I would be working it with the pisiform. And the pisiform is a tiny, tiny little bone in the wrist, and it lies in line with the little finger. And if you sort of just run down the zone 5 of your hand, and you just get to the point just before where the wrist actually articulates, you will find this really, really sharp, tiny bone. And you'll be thinking, but blood my neck, that's too small to actually do something with. But actually, with Finger Free, it is about size matters. But the smaller, the better. Because again, just like Our Lady walking with stiletto heels, the tinier the area that comes into contact with the client's foot, the more pressure is actually felt by the client. And what we do with this technique is called playing the violin. I have stupid names for everything, I really do. But it kind of helps you remember how to do it. And you just sort of imagine that along the spinal reflex are the strings of the violin, and your arm becomes the violinist's bow, and you're working around the spine. So you're creating this, if I just put my hand up here for those that are logged on so you can see this, you're actually rolling, oh gosh, can you see what I'm trying to do? You're rolling round the spine reflex, and you're creating a C shape as you're going around. You can feel that hard, bony edge as you're going around it with the pisiform. And the beauty of this technique, it actually made me change my classical technique once I'd sort of invented this one, because I suddenly realized, oh, I've made a C shape on one side, and then when I was doing the spine on the other side, I've made another C shape. Well, we know that the spine is the spinal column. When you put two C shapes together, you've made a circle. And as you're going around the spine, we're actually going right round the spinal vertebrae. So we're not just working one side of it, the other side of it, we're going all the way around by the time that you've actually done this technique. So it's an extremely effective technique for people that have got pain in their back, but more than that, it's fantastic for nerve innervation. So if you've got somebody that's got a, shall we say, a sluggish liver, and they get up and goes, got up and gone, work the liver reflex and work the spinal innervation to the liver, and it really, really works. It's, shall we say, a double whammy. That's it. That's the kind of expression I'm looking for. Yeah. So does that sound okay on that one?
Brilliant, brilliant.
Then there's the last one that I've got in the way of the pictures.
Just to let you know, you've got about 5 or 10 more minutes. So
Right, okay, no worries. We've got
reference.
loads of time for questions and things like that as well, and where I teach it, I guess, and bits and bobs like that. So this is the trapezius reflex, and this one I like to do standing up. There's no rule that says reflexology must be done sitting down, and so again, I like to move around. And I remember everybody probably knows about World Reflexology Week, and we took over the Victoria Shopping Centre in the middle of Nottingham, because that's where I'm from. And we got 8 treatment chairs, and they were occupied by clients the whole day. It was brilliant. We raised over £1,000 for a local cancer charity. But on one side of me was a guy who'd been trained by Sue Ricks, and he was doing gentle touch. And sitting the other side of him was one of my graduates. And I'm wheeling around in my stall, I'm all different positions, and he'd just been taught to work sat in one position. And then it got to the point where I was going to work the trapezius, and I stood up for it, and I could see him turned around to my graduate, and he says, "What is he doing?" And my graduate, "Oh, don't worry, it's just David." But the thing is, though, you move around, you adapt things, you stay fresh.
David.
To the trapezius. Yes?
Yeah.
Sorry, you were going to say something?
I was going to say you were sort of starting to cut up a bit.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, you're just leaning into that trapezius reflex. So you're actually applying your full body weight onto that area of the foot. Now, again, people may be thinking, oh gosh, that sounds like it's really, really firm. But funnily enough, because you're working onto such a soft area of the foot, it doesn't feel firm. And everybody that I've done it on, and the people that have learned it, they're going, it just feels like you're actually having your trapezius squashed. You know, when you go for a massage and they press down onto them to release the tension, and it feels the same way. So it's a very, very relaxing technique. But as far as the training is concerned, I teach Finger Free Reflexology all over the UK.
And abroad, if you need.
If you need, yes. Oh,
not just the UK.
No. I'll go anywhere. I'm a tart. I'll just turn up for anybody. But I've got. Where was it? I was in Aberdeen. Was it in May? And then I was in London the following week. I do Bristol, Cardiff, Glasgow. I'm going to Belfast in September, I think.
All right.
So yeah, all over.
Brilliant.
I'd turn up for the opening of an envelope, I would, you know.
Brilliant. So, almost, as we're coming to almost a close, have you got the link? Do you know, did people just put in Jubilee College into YouTube just to see any videos showing the techniques, the hand routine?
That's right.
Just Jubilee College, everyone.
Jubilee College, all one word, and that will take you to the YouTube channel that we've got.
Fantastic. That's brilliant. Brilliant. And does anyone have any questions? We've got quite a quiet lot this time. Here we go. We have a question.
Excellent.
Right, because I love questions. Okay, so I've got 2 questions. Jackie Grimley. Hi, Jackie. What's the name of the inflammatory treatment or tablet David said about?
Oh,
that was
okay. That's called
glucocorticoid.
Yeah, that's called glucosamine sulfate.
Okay. Can you say that again?
Sure. Glucosamine sulfate.
Glucose.
Yeah. Now, I wouldn't advise you to buy it from somewhere like Holland and Barrett, because the quality is never quite what you would hope for. Find yourself a good independent health food shop, and they'll be able to supply you with a good quality one.
Fantastic. Great. I hope that answers your question. She's said thank you. I've also
You're welcome.
I've also had Heather saying, is it possible to have a copy of the PowerPoint presentation? Well, there will be a copy of the recording, so I guess it'll be in that, but that's down to you, David.
If people want to email me, and that's quite easy, it's just david.wayte@jubileecollege.com. I can email you a copy of this presentation. That's not a problem whatsoever. More than happy for you to have it.
Brilliant, brilliant. And I'm aware that you're not, I don't know whether you're a nutritionist or anything, so this question might not apply. Andrea Garidus says, why is glucosamine sulfate unsuitable for diabetics?
Now that one I have got no idea, but I'm only guessing. When you think of the word glucosamine, glucose, maybe there's something there that reacts and isn't recommended. But you're absolutely right, actually, Teresa, in your guess. I'm not a dietitian, but it's a case of it's one of those ones that I was made aware of quite a few years ago, that glucosamine wasn't suitable for diabetics.
Yeah, okay, that's brilliant. And she said thank you as well. She'll Google it. Good old Google, absolutely brilliant.
We'd be lost without it, wouldn't we?
How did we ever exist? How did we ever
I know.
Absolutely. Well, I'm aware everyone's taken the time from 12 to 12:45 to come on this. And David, is there anything else you want to say?
I would just like to thank everybody for putting up with me for these 3/4 of an hour. I'm amazed whenever anybody wants to actually listen to me. So I've thoroughly enjoyed it, and I hope you have, learnt something and enjoyed it too, everybody.
Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. And thank you everyone again for coming on the line and taking your lunch hour really to come and join David, because I really appreciate it, David. It's been great for me, because I'm always learning from you guys as well. Absolutely brilliant. Because as a tutor, sometimes we don't get the time unless we physically slot it in because we're so busy training. So for me, this is another way to be learning. Obviously not everything, but to gain more information, which is great that you've shared your knowledge free to everyone. So I really appreciate that. And I'm sure everyone else does.
Very welcome.
Really good. So people have been coming in saying thank you. Absolutely fabulous. I've had that from Andrea, Brenda, Heather, Victoria. Hi, Victoria. Olivia, Andrea. So they're just some of the people that have actually said thank you very, very much, if that makes sense. So absolutely brilliant.
Good.
Really, really good. And Sally, of course, I don't leave you out, Sally. And Pamela Hamilton. So, there's loads of people that have said it. So thank you very much for producing a new PowerPoint. I need to say that. Your time of trying to work out how to use, all the computer.
I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed it. Even this morning when we couldn't communicate with each other, we're thinking, oh no, it's all gone wrong. But no, we got it sorted, so that was fine.
So happy. I'm really so happy. So absolutely brilliant. So thank you, everyone. Have a great lunch hour, and a recording will be available in about 2 days. Okay. Bye for now. Bye. Thanks, David. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.